Welcome everyone to the Into the Wild League. We've got our playoff match tonight with Nate Wolfe and Dr. Evil, and I have the pleasure of casting tonight with Itinerant Wizard. And this is our first time casting together, so welcome. I'm super stoked.
Thanks, Blue Train. I am too. Looking forward to a fun evening. It's going to be great.
Yeah, and both Nate and Dr. Evil are bringing it. We've saw their deck lists, and they are bringing some interesting choices. And rather than reviewing the rules, which I think everyone is familiar with, I thought maybe we'd review the lineup really quickly before we get both players into game. So to start with, Dr. Evil has opted to bring a Jade Druid, fairly standard list, same one that's featured on Vicious Syndicate. An interesting even shaman that has some good tech choices. We'll talk about those a little bit more later. And finally, an odd mech paladin. So, Itinerant Wizard, what do you think of Dr. Evil's lineup?
So I'm partial to Jade Druid personally. I really like its staying power, and sort of knowing what we know about Nate's decks, he has teched for the sort of druids that we have seen in prominence, which we'll talk about that in a bit. But I don't think he's got the Geist, so he may be sad if Taylor brings out endless Jades in her quest for victory. So I think that I love Jade Druid personally. I'm looking forward to seeing how that performs. Her even shaman deck looks like the fairly common sort of version of it, but she has slotted in hex. I know a lot of even shamans aren't running hex right now. There's just sort of banking on their ability to just continue to apply endless pressure. Well, maybe not endless, but steady pressure. But she's definitely teched in on some hex. She's got a little bit of defense there, which is nice. And the odd mech paladin, I think there's a member of the wild community recently sort of posted a deck very similar to this, sort of with mech odd paladin with mech spice in it that gives it a little extra capability. There's something odd paladin usually goes wide. You're depending on putting out lots of guys, but when you run into a matchup where you need to go tall, few things do that better than mechs with war gears and ziliacs attached to them. So it'll be fun to see this deck's flexibility in action.
Yeah, a very good lineup. And we were talking about those hexes in Dr. Evil's deck. Not common as you said, but I think something that will be rewarded. So when we look at Nate's lineup, Nate opted to bring a recruit hunter with some of the chargy boys, a control Cthulhu warrior, and finally a Q block. And Q block's an interesting choice and very forward thinking. If I were to put on my post nerf crystal ball, well, I can't wear a crystal ball, but anyways, if I were to try to predict the future, I think that Q block has a bright future in the wild metagame. One of its main oppressive archetypes that it struggled against, the Starliner Druids, are gone. And so I think it's a good choice, and Hex just plays right into it. So it's going to be an interesting matchup. What Nate might think is an easy matchup might be a little bit more difficult because of the tech choices.
Well, I really hope Nate's not expecting any easy matchups because we
Wow.
are talking about the undefeated 5-0, 15-2 in games. Dr. Evil, who has been the absolute terror of the Joe's division. So he's got his work cut out for him.
Yes, I meant from a lineup perspective, but I'm glad that you're
Fair enough.
keeping me
Fair enough.
honest because Dr. Evil is a legit player and maybe needs to be promoted to the pros bracket as Dr. Evil is achieved both legend in standard and wild. Not an easy feat and something that is worth commending. So I'm going to go ahead and send word to our players to get into game one. What do you think they're going to queue into for their initial game?
That's I don't know. Let's see. My guess. I think I bet Nate would start with the hunter. And I think my money on Taylor is with the odd paladin.
Okay. Um, I'm always wrong when I make predictions, so want to continue this tradition here. I think even Shaman would be my choice to start with, just because it's a very rounded deck. It doesn't have a lot of bad matchups. And finally, on Taylor's side, I probably would do the Jade Druid for the same reason, but maybe maybe she's afraid of Geist. I'm not sure. I'm less sorry. Taylor would bring the Even Shaman. Nate would bring. I'm a little off tonight. Would probably try
Maybe
to bring a consistent performer as well. So I
Q,
would probably think the Q block.
Q block. All right. Well, we'll see. We'll see which one of us is right. Possibly neither of us.
We will. So I tend to be the anti-predictor. If I predict a series going to Game 5, they do not go to Game 5. When I predict folks bringing certain decks, they do not bring them. So
All right. Let's see what we get. All right. Well, you get one. You get one. I get zero. So you win, sir.
well, I hardly call that a win, but Nate opting to start with his control warrior, and he probably not knowing that this is a Jade Druid, he's probably feeling pretty good about his choice, because typically these control warriors were targeting the Starliner Druids because they can out armor them, and oftentimes they run multiple copies of Rat and Deathlord, which this deck isn't, but in general, would be a good choice.
Right. All right. So Nate opted to keep a brawl and a giggling inventor and drew the other brawl. So he's going to be well positioned for dealing with the wide board if it were token druid. Taylor with wild growth and jade blossom in hand. She's going to ramp very quickly.
Yeah, getting wild growth on turn two exponentially increases your odds of winning. So I'm sure Taylor was very happy to see that.
Yep. And now her next card will reveal to Nate. Unless she plays the branching paths to draw, but my guess is she's going to play the blossom. Nope, she puts out a blocker. Maybe. Maybe not wanting to tip her hand just yet. Maybe mislead Nate into thinking she's Taunt Druid. I
That's
just happened to draw that.
it's an interesting choice. I think I would have opted for the ramp. Um, the reason being is that if one were to draw more ramp, it could get you up quickly. Although I think that it doesn't really matter in this case.
Yeah. Well, as it
Also,
happens, if she had played the Blossom, she did draw into the Nourish. Oh, but she's got the 5 anyway, so.
yep, and now I think what you'll see is Nourish will be played, and uh, can keep the branching paths for armor gain, or in this case, more likely to not draw.
Or, Jade Blossom and then Hero Power down the Disciple, which is what she opts to do.
Well, one thing is for certain, the warrior doesn't traditionally pressure the druid, so a more passive line isn't detrimental to Doctor Evil's game plan. Sequencing is maybe a little bit different than would be typical. That's an interesting choice. Opting to use a shield slime right away. I mean, it should be obvious to Nate that he's facing a Jade Druid, so I would expect him to play accordingly.
Yeah, I mean, she would have the ability, possibly to attack him with that golem if she'd had an armor gain card in hand, which you and I know she does. So at the very least, he saves himself a little bit of damage by doing that. But there may be something bigger he'll want to do that with. But he's sitting on both brawls in his hand, so he knows that he can take care of
Yeah,
a large board pretty easily.
I take that back actually. Some Togwaggle variants and even Starliner variants run Blossom, although it's less common now. But I shouldn't take it for granted that Nate has decided that he's facing a Jade Druid. I think it'll become obvious pretty quickly though, once Doctor Evil plays some of our other cards.
All right, and with a little hero power armor that powers up the spell stone that Doctor Evil has in hand. She elects to hold it.
So this is an interesting turn for Nate, and I like this line of play. He's going to develop his board and power up his Cthulhu. He's going to equip the weapon project as well. I suppose he's thinking that he's got the Annoyatrons to deal with the incoming swing of the weapon. I'm just going to
Although
double check the.
playing the weapons project did give Taylor the armor she needs to attack with the golem. If he'd not done that, it would be sitting there inert, unless she played a card of her own to gain armor, like Oaken Summons, for example. All right, so at this point, though, she's played both of her golems, which means Oaken Summons is guaranteed to pull Fandral, if I remember her lineup correctly. So she's going to have the opportunity to play that at a time when she can get benefit from from at least one, possibly two choose one cards.
Yeah, more than not likely the idol.
Yeah.
Oftentimes we see less experienced Jade Druid players shuffle their idols a little too early. Um, what I think we're going to likely see, unless Taylor really needs that armor, she's going to try to sequence that big swing turn with multiple idols and Vandal. So I think this is an interesting game we have here. So the game plan for Nate is to build a big Cthulhu, slam him on board, and win the game. But
Yep.
with the armor gain that Druid is fast becoming famous for, um, will that be enough for to deal the knockout punch? I fear it won't. I think unfortunately without Geist, this match is going to be very difficult if Nate isn't able to start exerting more pressure.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. And now Taylor has drawn a Jade Idol, so she may move on the Fandral plan next turn.
See, Taylor doesn't know that Nate's not running Geist, so I think she'll opt to play rather than shuffle to tick up the Jade count.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Well, I think it's generally accepted wisdom to play the first idol, right? And you wait for the second one to shuffle. But because she's got the Oaken Summons, if she waited till next turn, she could have done both by Oaken Summonsing out Fandral.
that's a good point. Get the best of both worlds and develop
Yeah.
a minion that demands an answer on the board. Maybe
Well, Nate clears the board with a Dynamatic. Dynamatic, a card that has proven to be, I think, a lot more powerful than a lot of people expected when Boomsday first came out.
and a fairly staple card in Standard as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Odd Warrior runs that. Yeah, runs two of pretty much all the time.
So now, if there was any doubt in Nate's mind after seeing the idol and seeing the behemoth, he knows he's facing down the dreaded Jade Druid.
Dirty Rat's interesting. Let's see, but it's going to whiff here.
Yeah, I mean, possible that maybe there was a juicy target in hand.
Yeah, Jade Spirit or Jade Behemoth that would lose the battle cry, or if he'd been able to pull Fandral out, um, maybe he could have. Oh, there's Aya. So that's another one that would have been that Nate would have been happy to see in her hand last turn.
Now that we've hit turn 10, Nate will be able to get full value off that Omega Assembly. He's got to
Yep.
really start putting more pressure on. Um, this
Yeah,
is
but
a tough matchup.
Taylor going all out with the minion plan with using branching paths to give them +2 attack.
And that's a great use of branching paths. Taylor doesn't need the armor. She certainly doesn't need the draw.
Nope.
She's got a wide board. I mean, what more could you ask for?
Yeah, with a UI in hand, if she does need the draw, she's got it. Yeah, she's sitting pretty right now. I think Nate's probably going to be forced to brawl here.
Yeah, and this is kind of a feels bad brawl because you've got the death rattle and it's not exactly the widest board. And you know that the Jade Pain's going to be coming in spades over the next couple turns.
Yeah. Aya gives up a 5/5. Oh, he's going to give himself extra chance of winning the brawl.
And powering up that Cthulhu, it's still a win condition.
Yep. Oh, and nope.
Oh, so the Jade counts at 5. We've got a 5-1 Jade left on the board. Some interesting mechs.
Mechanical Whelp is nice if you can get it to die. Harvest Golem, not so much. 5/1 Rush. That's basically 6 mana kill a minion.
With the sparks, that does represent a board clear
That's
for
true.
now.
Yep. Depends
And
on which spiders Taylor brings down.
I think we'll see poisonous. I mean,
Yeah, that's the right thing to do when she's ahead on board.
you want to get Malfurion on as early as possible. I think that we're going to see this played, but Taylor's thinking about it. Oh, we're going to see
So she elects
Scarabs.
the taunt.
Well, it turns out that this was probably the best call because while the 6 mana mech, whose name eludes me, will be able to clear one of the Scarabs off, um, we'll be able to use it to clear the 2 Jades.
But Nate does draw and execute, gets rid of one of the Jades.
I mean, I know that he's trying to keep the pressure off the board, but I think that knowing that we're going into the late game, that execute, I don't know if that was maybe used a bit prematurely. Maybe Nate's thinking if the game goes that long, he's sunk anyway, so
Yeah.
better to lean in now.
Well, he was looking at 15 damage if he didn't get it off the board. Behemoth brings out a 6/6. I think we're going to see Brawl number 2.
Oof, yeah. And I think brawl number 2 being used at this point, while necessary, is starting to signal the beginning of the end.
Yep. Honestly, I think the Jade Idol coming down was the signal for the beginning of the end, unfortunately.
Yeah, and especially after the nerfs, I think we're going to see a lot of Jade Druids on ladder. And Geist was a questionable tech choice in this past meta. I think that Geist is going to become quite common in a majority of decks that can't beat the Druid in the early game.
Yeah. We're going to see Skulking Geist. We're probably going to, I guess it'll be curious to see how prevalent Giggling Inventor is after tomorrow. So if she, with her increase in costs, she may go away a lot, and that'll get rid of the 2/7, whose name eludes me, that kills all things with power 2 or less.
The Mossy Horror.
Mossy Horror, yeah.
So Giggling Inventor only saw fringe play in Wild even at 5 mana. It saw some play in Reno Lock, in some Reno Priests, I guess in Quest Rogue for the few people that opted to run that in Wild. So I think at 7 mana, in Wild anyways,
It'll go away.
well, would you run a 7 mana Giggling or a 5 mana Sludge Belcher? That's the kind of the options that you have to weigh.
Right. Yeah, at 5, I was seeing it in Odd Paladin sometimes, and Odd Rogue even in Wild as well as Standard.
Oh, really? Interesting.
But maybe it's just where I am on ladder when I'm running into.
Well, we can't deny that Standard, having the huge player base that it does, influences the Wild metagame. So, the Giggling Inventor and Blood Knight in Standard was certainly strong and could swing a game in any format.
Yep. I've put down my share of 12/12 or 15/15 Blood Knights.
Too bad we're not getting refunds on Blood Knights tomorrow, huh?
It was always fun to watch someone put down a Giggling Inventor, and then I put down my own and then play a Blood Knight.
And it was so consistent too, because you're running your own Giggling Inventor, so you're always going to get value off of it, right?
Yep,
It kind of reminds
exactly.
me of the Galacta crawler, right? Eating the pirates. I'll eat my own pirate if you're not playing pirates.
Right. So Nate elects to use his second Shield Slam to get rid of the 2/2 Treant on the board. And so now that Taylor has drawn her other Jade Idol, Oaken Summons pulls Fandral,
Yeah.
and we see the Jade Inevitability begin. With only 4 other cards in her deck, she's got a 50-50 chance with each of her draws to draw another idol. And her hero power will give her both benefits right now. which is also another sweet side effect.
Yeah, I wonder if maybe I would have cleared off one of the 2-2 or the 2-3 to try and ensure that Fandral lives. It looks like Taylor is thinking on that line as well. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, not strictly necessary, but kind of the final nail in the coffin. Speaking of giggling inventor, uh,
Yeah, and now the spark drill will make sure that Fandral dies. And with the coin, he can put out the giggling inventor to hold off the jade for a bit,
but
unless
with
Taylor.
a deck full of idols and two ultimate infestations,
Yeah,
I know that Nate doesn't want to concede this is playoffs. Take it to the bitter end, but I think the bitter end has arrived.
yep. And so yeah, we with spreading plague to put up a wall. Um, I think Taylor's just going to pick Nate's line apart until he admits defeat.
A lot of players were disappointed that Spreading Plague didn't see any kind of nerf from Blizzard. It's still, I think, one of the most influential cards that have been printed in this game. The ability to mop up and sop up that much damage is really something.
It can be backbreaking.
Yeah, I mean, in this matchup, it was inconsequential, but against aggro, especially now that Paladin's starting to see a little bit of a resurgence, I mean, it just plays so well into that.
Yeah, I think spreading plague holding off paladins is the reason that Void Ripper got added to so many paladin decks. Um, because then you can, at the worst case, you can at least flip them and then you give up your line, but you take out the other line as well.
And that's a great example of the standard metagame influencing the wild metagame, because actually you see wild odd paladins running Void Ripper for the exact same reason, and
Yeah.
that was a standard innovation.
And Wildcard is pointing out that if this match were played tomorrow, it would be a different deck list due to the impending nerfs.
Yeah, I don't think we'd see Dirty Rat. I think the Dirty Rat meta is dead.
All right, Nate clinging to life,
Out of cards, out
refusing
of
to go
everything.
gently into that good night.
Oh. I was gonna
Um,
say you hang on to get more information, but the only information he's gonna get is many
11,
idols.
yeah, indeed. 11 damage to the face. Well, 16 damage to the face. So Taylor's one off lethal. Oh no, 4 off lethal. Oh no,
Yeah,
right, because
no hero
10
power.
for the 10 for the UI, right? No hero power. Well,
Maybe
Omega
hoping for
Assembly
some
draw.
taunts or Nate lives a couple states away from me, but I think I can hear his teeth grinding from here.
Yeah.
And there's the well played, and there's the concede.
And he concedes. All right, so the Jade Druid takes down the Cthulhu Warrior.
Yeah, not an optimal match. But the good news, I think, for this warrior deck is that it will line up much better into the other two decks. And so I think that knowing that there's a paladin and a shaman in the roster, I suspect that Nate will opt to queue with that deck again.
And let's see, so I think that having now one with the Jade Druid, if I were in Taylor's shoes, I'd be tempted to come out with the odd mech and save the even shaman. As I think earlier you said, you pointed out the even Shaman has the most rounded matchups, right? And thus, if she has to fall back to it, or once she wins, if she wins with the odd mech Paladin, then she's got the Shaman, which has sort of the best even chance against anything else that Nate is running.
So I was thinking that Taylor was going to queue with the shaman because the hexes certainly would be a strong choice. But maybe if Taylor thinks that Nate's going to queue the warrior again, then I think that your choice would be better. So I'm going to go ahead and signal them to get into game two,
Okay.
and I'm excited to see if our predictions are.
So I've only just noticed that apparently Taylor didn't realize we weren't doing a test run, but she won, so
Oh
clearly she was
dear.
ready.
Well, she wouldn't. I don't think Taylor would have queued into a test run with any of the decks that. I'm just apologizing for the confusion. The last thing I want to do is get into their heads.
Right.
You know, I typically I like to do test runs, but I found that most folks it confuses them, and so it's just easier to let them get into game and then kind of improvise my way in.
Gotcha. Yeah, in past matches that I've run, we've usually done a quick sort of quick test run just so that the casters can spectate and have everything lined up for the start. But this was fine.
We're in playoffs. We're all veterans of the format, so
There you go. Have to be ready to
production.
fight at any time.
Yeah, production has been a little bit easier as time has went on. I know the first couple games that I was involved in, speaking about Hearthstone and trying to operate the stream, kind of threw me for a loop. It still kind of does, but I feel a little more comfortable with it.
Yeah, I was commenting. I think I commented on Twitter after my first one or two, and talking with some friends. That it's there. You see people like Kibler and Frodan making it look so easy, right, up on the pro screen, and then you come in and you're like, I have no idea how they keep track of, half a dozen different things, keeping track of the game at the same level that they would while playing, and making, interesting commentary, providing, entertaining insight, and just sort of, continuing to do it. Um, all right, so let's see. So, yeah, so I routinely would like forget what I was saying halfway through, or like forget the name of a card and screw myself up. Um, but let's see. So we have ended up with the Q block against the Paladin.
So this is definitely a matchup that I think Nate relishes, and I want to just point out that Dr. Evil has chosen the correct Paladin hero, which I understand increases your win rate exponentially.
I haven't seen Sir Anoyo. I haven't seen his emotes yet, so I'm curious to see if she uses them.
They're all hello.
Apparently, Hallow.
Yeah, different intonations or pronunciations. So not to give Mecha Jiraxis his day. Blizzard has really been doing a good job with these heroes. I quite enjoy them.
Yeah, I'm a particular fan of Nemzi. All
I
right,
don't.
so Nate has got a fistful of 4 and 5 drops,
Yeah,
while Taylor's got a bunch of cheap stuff and will be able to develop a board pretty quickly.
yeah. Void Caller into Doomguard is always nice to see. Also, a plethora of AOE, Defile, Hellfire, Shadow Flame,
So that
and
was
Nate's not
interesting.
wasting any time.
If I were in Nate's shoes, I'd have been tempted to hold off the Defile for another turn, but he does have Hellfire in hand. I'd have been tempted to hold for more value, but I guess he would risk um, extra damage from like a Warhorse trainer or something like that.
I completely agree. I think that this kind of tips his hand that he has more AoE, and we're going to see Taylor play accordingly. I'm going to see that Void Collar slammed on for. Seems like a solid enough play to me.
Yeah.
Or not.
Okay.
I'm I think I'm going to make a note of this and ask Nate about it after. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't want to critique his play. He might have some knowledge that I don't, but
Well, I mean, so one thing to note, right? It was going into Taylor's turn 4. She's got the coin. So with 3 guys on the board, she could have coined into a level up or a quartermaster. So had she done that, she would have been able to hit him for 9. Hellfire still would have cleared it, but it would have been a much more painful turn for him.
hmm.
But now he's out 2 of his AoEs. He does still have Shadow Flame, but he opts to play the Skull. Now, the Skull might pull the Void Caller. I guess we'll see.
Certainly interesting sequencing. I mean, we were chatting before this game that I am probably the worst Q block player in North America, but my instinct would have been to play the Void Caller because its Death Rattle would have generated value, and the Paladin doesn't have a lot of obvious ways to remove those minions, at least easily.
Well, if the Skull pulls the Void Caller, then he can play the Shadow Flame and get the Doom Guard as well, which will mostly clear the board.
That'd be a
But
nice
if the
turn.
Skull pulls the Doom Guard, which it does,
This isn't the worst turn in the world because, you know, with Gul'dan in hand, if Nate survives to turn 10, they're all coming back. So,
that's true.
and the Spellstone's fully powered up as well. So, you know, potential to heal up for 7 as well will be well appreciated.
And clearing the board was a good thing for Nate there because Taylor does have a Quartermaster in hand. And with 6 mana, she had 2 recruits on the board. So Lost in the Jungle would have given her four guys, but she opts for maybe an Inventor to stall the next Doom Guard.
Yep, seeing its literal last day of play.
Right.
The ability for this deck to generate a board is staggering.
That's why I love it so much.
All right. Well, there's Lotheb, and I think that. Oh,
That's a nice pull for Dirty Rat.
yeah. 2 out of 3 pulls would have been good. It was a good time to play it. Opting to kill his Void
Huh.
Caller.
Now
Get,
Nate did not attack with the Void Caller before spellstoning it.
did it
So
just
he
come
was
out this turn with the skull, or was that the previous turn?
no, you might be right. I think the Skull pulled it, so you're right
Looks
there.
like the banner kind of moved past it. It doesn't say what demon the skull pulled. Anyways. Yeah, they have summoning sickness when they come out of the skull, so.
Right. Yeah, and it was the only demon on board when the Skull activated, so you're right. He didn't have the chance to do that. All right, so Taylor adds Ziliax to one of the Annoyatrons, takes out the rat.
We are counting down to turn 10. We want that Blood Reaver Gul'dan to come out. And I bet that Nate is wishing for a Void Daddy right now. The deck does run 2, and that card, when not silenced, is almost an insta-win.
Yeah.
But Dr. Evil is running 1 Iron Beak Owl or 2? Definitely running 1.
Let's see. Iron Beak Owl, she's got 1 in the deck. Now there's a good pickup on the Hellfire.
Yeah.
That saves Nate.
And a Mal'Ganis.
Yeah. Quartermaster was coming down next turn.
Mal'Ganis into Gul'dan is happy time for a Warlock. Mal'Ganis being busted in every game it's released in.
This is definitely going the opposite of a usual Odd Paladin versus Warlock matchup.
How so?
Well, and usually the Warlock is the Odd Paladin's bane because they just have so much board clear. But I think maybe with Nate spending his board clears very aggressively early, that sort of put him behind because Taylor has also drawn a ton of great. Um, Taldaram.
Oh wow.
Will he copy Mal'Ganis?
I think he will.
Yeah.
You got it right because if they both get cleared, then they're gonna come back as full Mal'Ganis. I agree. I think that maybe Nate was a bit quick on the draw with his AOE. Again, I'd like to ask before I pass judgment because there could be
Yeah.
something that was under consideration. But with the dual Mal'Ganis right now and Blood Reaver Gul'dan set to make an appearance, uh, I think we got a game of Hearthstone.
Yeah. But now Taylor can take out the big one. With two divine shielded guys plus the steward if she wants to give that up. But with only one taunt in the way, I would imagine, yeah, that's what I would have done. So another Mal'Ganis, but a little easier to deal with for Taylor. Not knowing, of course, that Nate has Gul'dan in hand. But Nate will not have any taunts.
I think we're gonna see him trade the Mal'Ganis so that when he comes back, he'll be the
He'll be full
full.
size.
Yeah. And Dark Pact's a nice draw. I think any healing at this point will be appreciated. And that is a board. 2 giant
Yes.
Doom Guards, 2 Mal'Ganises. I never know how to say more than one.
I forgot about the Doom Guards. So looks like it may swing the other way. Although Phantom Militia in hand does give Dr. Evil the ability to put up a little bit of a block, but there's just so much on the other side. That's 20, 40, 52 damage on the board plus hero power, 55 damage on the board.
That is a board.
And Taylor concedes.
All right, well, it looks like the AoE being used early didn't seem to have a negative effect. Nate was able to get to turn 10 and play that Mal'Ganis and take it.
Yeah, that was key. Having that from very early in the game so that he knew he had it to depend on.
And of course
And maybe that's
sorry, yep.
I would say maybe that's why he was so aggressive. But his life did get down into the single digits there, and it was looking close.
Yeah, he Mal'Ganis off the top certainly helped. If that wasn't drawn, could have been a little bit of a different game. But hey, it went the way it went, and we now have a tied series. So
Yeah.
with Warlock and the Jade Druid out of the way, it's going to be interesting to see what gets played next. I said before I thought we were going to see an appearance of the Warrior. I think we're going to see the Warrior come back. And does Taylor bring the Paladin deck again?
I
I
don't
don't know.
know. I in her shoes, I might. I mean, her deck put up a very strong showing, right? We saw Nate cleared the board at least three separate times, maybe four times, and Taylor just kept coming back. Doctor Evil just kept filling that board. Nate did also manage to clear the board multiple times right before a quartermaster would have hit the board. But if not for that top deck Mal'Ganis into Gul'dan, I think Doctor Evil would have won that.
It's a shame because that double hex and the even shaman would have really liked to play into that.
Yes, into the
That
Mal'Gani.
yeah, but unfortunately it was not meant to be. But I think that the even shaman will still perform well against the other two decks that Nate has brought, which again is the recruit hunter, and of course that Cthulhu control warrior, a throwback to the whispers of the old god meta. So I've sent the signal to start game 3. I think we're
Okay.
going to see the control warrior, and that's why we're precisely going to see the recruit hunter. And it sounds like they are starting.
Indeed. Let's see what we get. Yeah, the paladin comes back against the warrior. All right. So this deck, does have a couple of ravaging ghouls, which will be rough for Taylor, and we see Nate holds one, already knowing, um, you know, that Taylor's going to be filling her board with small guys. And the Mekaru hits the board. I don't think we saw that one last time.
Nope. Certainly a good opening mech. Again, this is another card that sees quite a bit of play in standard, not as much in wild. I think most odd paladins in wild are running a pirate package or just kind of bog standard paladin cards.
Yeah, I know the one I play is all in on the package. All right, the Ravaging Ghoul clears Dr. Evil's board. And now Nate's got a good curve starting the turn after next.
That, I like that play only because it clears the board, develops a body it contests. This is a match where Nate's going to have to stabilize, and certainly that swung the board in his favor
Yeah,
for now.
agreed. And I think he has less board clear in this deck than he had in the Warlock, or maybe the same. What two ghouls and two brawls
Two executes, two slams.
for single target attacks.
Correct. Yeah, those aren't AoEs, obviously. It's a bit of a clunky hand for Nate. He does have, I guess, as you said, a reasonable curve, but by the time he gets to turn 6, this is going to be a board that's going to look quite frightening.
So, all right. So Taylor opts to bring out Ziliax, which means she can, if it survives, she can graft on the war gear next turn. She gives her Nate gives his paladin opponent a weapon. Nope, and takes out the mech. Yeah.
I like this. It allows a full board clear and the weapon developed, which could be used to clear out minions next turn. The alternative was to play the Dynamatic, but Nate doesn't really have a good strong turn. I mean, Thorson's always a strong play, but it's a little bit passive in this matchup. So I think we're going to see the Dynamatic.
Although with the giggling inventor showing up, the Dynamatic is only going to kill the inventor in the middle.
Oh, that's right. It doesn't target mechs. I should know this.
Right. But now that does give Dr. Evil some targets to graft a war gear onto. So she can go with the war gear. She's got the fungal mancer. She's got an opportunity to make some very big things here. And, I'll be curious to see if she goes with the war gear or the fungal mancer. Like she opts to graft on the war gear. Keeping that divine shield intact.
Nice pickup off the top. Dr. Boom, Mad Genius / value generator. One of the
Yeah,
most cool cards on the new set.
that card is one of the reasons I have way too much dust. Because I just kept buying until I generated a golden one. When after the fact I realized it would have been cheaper to just craft him.
Well, I think that he's a great golden card because he generates lots of different kinds of cards with his hero power, and what better thing is there than gold cards that make more gold cards?
Indeed. All right, so Dr. Evil brings down a fungal mancer, and that Anoyotron is just getting larger and larger. Still with a divine shield. I think Nate is hoping to draw into a brawl. He's going to discover a mech as his hero power next turn. Dynamatic won't target. Dynamatic will clear the other two minions, so that's a possibility.
Brawl is really the only thing that answers this board, and that kind of feels bad because, I mean, there's a good chance that a minion of significant stats will remain on the board post brawl, and of course Nate has to draw it, which is far from assured.
Right.
Okay, well, that's not the
Yep.
worst
Inventor
pickup.
gives him some life. And we are now, so he's 10, 11 cards into his deck, and he hasn't drawn a single Cthulhu buff card yet. All right.
I
I'm
think you
curious to
take the
see
heal bot.
if he takes the heal bot, he has to wait till next turn. But yep, that's what he chooses to do.
I mean, I get that it's a bit. Oh, that feels so bad.
Thick patches.
Yeah, big patches, thick patches, with all of the small minions. Although, you know what, looking at Tyrion, I suppose it could have been worse.
Yeah. Yeah, this is, yeah, absolutely. Taylor's going to crush the rat, probably maybe kill the Dynamatic, keep that shield on the Annoyatron.
And
Yeah.
I am surprised. We're seeing Doctor Evil run away with the game with these giant divine shielded minions. Are we gonna try for a second rat, or did Nate learn his? You got to do it, right? No.
No,
Fair enough.
he's just, I mean, he's just trying to stay alive.
Good on him for
Hopefully.
removing those divine shields, though. I mean, the rallying blade would have just further buffed these minions. I'm not sure
Oh,
it's
yeah.
super
That would have,
consequential, but
that would have been awful for him. Well, I mean, these minions are pretty big as it is. But weapon and 3 minions on the board will clear the Annoyatrons. He's discovering that. Will Neat top deck the brawl?
oh,
No.
nice
But
execute.
that does get rid of the Annoyatron,
Yep.
but it's not enough.
All right, playing the rat
Derby
on a
Rat with a
full board.
yeah, ensures that it's just a body and he can execute the Annoyatron. Stays alive a little longer, gets a little bit of life. He can no, he can take out Tyrion.
And he could play Cthulhu next turn for a full board
He,
clear.
he could. Only 6
Although,
damage, but that may be enough.
with
Although
level up,
oh yeah, and I think
that,
that's going to seal Nate's fate.
yeah, level up is a scary card.
Because now that's 17 damage to face. Now, unless Nate draws a brawl, I think it's over. Even if he does, and with the brawl, I think it's still over.
No brawl, just a very insignificant Cthulhu. Yeah, and taking this game quite comfortably. With the matchup, I wouldn't have thought was necessarily favored. So good game, well played.
Absolutely, yeah. Doctor Evil just she had some interesting choices early with regard to like playing the war gear versus playing the with she had Ziliax. She grafted Ziliax onto something with the coin. She could have played war gear instead. She had a Fungalmancer in hand, so navigating the choices there to leave herself set up with a really big Annoyotron that she was able to skillfully keep Divine Shielded for a long time to make it a persistent threat. That was fun to watch.
So now this is for the series, and Dr. Evil is one game away from going into finals undefeated. So, or are these the quarters? Am I losing myself here?
No, next week will be the division finals, right? So the Joes versus the Joes champion will be decided. The winner of this match will play Craig of Canada to determine who is the champion of the Joes. Meanwhile, in the pros division, we have the final match of Jonah Ra versus Get Meowth, and then the final championship will be the Joes champion versus the pros champion.
Awesome. Thank you for that summary.
Sure.
It's good context. So going undefeated into the division championships, that's pretty big bragging rights on the line. And as you said, the most consistent deck archetype in Dr. Evil's roster, the Even Shaman, certainly has a high probability of making this happen. On the other hand,
Yeah.
Nate still has that Cthulhu Warrior, which looks like it's been struggling a little bit, off the back of the lineup that it's facing. And Nate also has that Recruit Hunter as well, which is known for its explosive power and ability to seize boards. Hunter, generally, depending on its build, can be quite favored against the Even Shaman. I think we're going to see
Hmm.
Nate bring that.
Yeah, the recruit hunter's ability to sort of pivot explosively, right? To sort of go, and then suddenly come out of nowhere with just a total bulldozer smash to the face with you know seeping oozling into something like Silver Vanguard into Ragnaros or the Lich King, and Katharina pulling out King Crush and charged Devil Swords. I've seen that deck go from 0 to 100 in a single turn.
The Hex tech, though, could certainly put a monkey wrench into that game plan.
That's
So
very true.
we'll see how that works out. So it looks like we're getting into game.
All right.
Hey, I predicted something right.
All right, so I think yeah, in Nate's place here, I'd be tempted to hold on to Deathstalker Rexar. He, when you can get him online in the game, yeah, and he throws everything back. Deathstalker Rexar can win games by himself.
Yeah, that AoE and then that hero power, it generates so much value. And Hunter's not a class known for its card draw. It kind of peters out and runs out of steam, but Rexar really lets you keep generating threat after threat. So it's certainly one of the most interesting and powerful um, Death Knights.
Yeah. Yeah, and the if you with a little bit of luck, right, on your choices on zombies, you can find rushing poisonous things, life steal and taunt, and I have single handedly gotten had really good luck and won. You just obliterated big boards on the other side with some lucky pulls with Rexar.
So Taylor has a pretty good opening hand. Eel,
Yeah.
Claws, Flame Wreath, Faceless. Nate drew some really good late game threats. Uh, but will he be able to get to, turn 8? It's gonna be tricky. He's gonna need some good draws off the top. Um,
So
so
it's interesting that Taylor opted to bring out the eel, a little damage to face and a little a body on the board, and she's sitting on both devolves, which will be sad for Nate when he brings out that oozling.
I
And Nate
like
coins
I,
out the Houndmaster.
I like this play. I mean, he doesn't have much to gain by holding on to it. It's kind of a card that demands removal, and this will give him a much needed turn of reprieve.
Yeah. Although now that I think about it, so with Katharina and the Vanguard in hand, what's left in Nate's deck for the oozling to copy?
The Chargy dinosaur, whose name
That's got a
escapes
battle
me.
cry. That's a battle cry, not a death rattle. Yeah, I think actually
Oh yeah, you are
Nate has
correct.
it has unfortunately for him drawn both of his other death rattles, so there's nothing for the oozling to copy.
Yep, no, you are correct. I was thinking of Katharina. That is an unfortunate turn of events, but it is always you know a not so insignificant probability that that could happen.
Yeah. I
Um,
think I've seen versions of that deck with like a third or a fourth death rattle just to make it less likely that the oozling does nothing for you.
mm,
But on the other hand, if he can survive out to get the Silver Vanguard out, then that's going to pull Lich King or Ragnaros.
yep.
Except that it'll get devolved, is my guess. All right, so Doctor Evil opting to play control and keep um, Houndmaster Shaw off the board, which I think is an important choice.
Yeah, Nate is not really going to be able to answer the sports state, and
Oh,
this is going to be an unfortunate dirty rat.
yeah, that's a and he signals it. He knows it's a
I mean, he didn't have any other play he could have made, and so
no.
I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, Nate's deck pretty much bricked. Although we'll see what Rexar can do for him. Rexar will give him a little bit of life, but he's going to need to get really lucky with that hero power immediately.
so are we going to see a sea giant come down? I think we do.
I think we do.
I don't see what else one would do. You'd want to hang on to the devolves for juicier targets.
I agree.
Um,
And the Jade Lightning's good as a finisher.
th-
It's not going to finish Nate right now, but
oh, well, uh,
well, I guess with the Jade Lightning and her claws, she can get through for 16, which makes it a next turn game.
I guess you don't want to overcommit, but Hunter doesn't really have,
Yeah,
AoEs. I don't think it really matters, to be
yeah.
perfectly
And
honest.
Rexar's not enough to keep him alive. He'll leave the two Flame Wreath Facelesses on the board because of the healing totem. He's
Yep,
unable to clear that extra faceless.
that's really unfortunate. That was, a really, this game was lost at Mulligan.
Yep.
It happens. It's super unfortunate when it's such an important game. But on a brighter note, Doctor Evil's going to division finals undefeated. That's unbelievable.
And Nate with a little final BM with the threaten, and then Doctor Evil returns the favor by playing minions she doesn't need to play, and Nate concedes. And with that, we have Doctor Evil as the victor, 3 games to 1, going into the final match of the championship match for the division next week against Craig of Canada.
Yeah, and did Craig and Doctor Evil play earlier in this tournament at all? Did they have a match? Did Craig give a game up to Doctor Evil?
Let me. I think he did. Let's see.
So it's
Yep,
a grudge
in
match.
week one,
Week one.
Doctor Evil went 3-1 against Craig. So Taylor says she can't join the call because Appa is recording Coin Concede,
Just
but
checking with
Nate can
Nate.
join us.
All right, let's get Nate on. I'm going to go ahead and start up a quick call with
Okay,
Nate and yourself. So please stand by.
we'll do.
All right. So I am back with Itinerant Wizard and Nate. You there, Nate?
Hey, sorry, give me just 1 second.
No worries.
My thing is plugged into the wrong other thing. Can you guys hear me?
Yep,
Loud
can
and
hear you
clear.
fine.
Sweet, okay. Taylor says that she can't get on the microphone right now. Jeff is recording Coin Concede and her mic doesn't work. So, just FYI. Anyways, good games. Dirty Rat was clearly the MVP, just not mine.
Yeah, ending the dirty rat meta with a bang. Unfortunately, that last game you drew uh, incredibly poorly. Itinerant Wizard was pointing out that you basically drew your entire Death Rattle package, and you wouldn't be able to use the use to gain any value. Not that the game made it that far to become a concern, but all the same, that was a pretty feels bad draw.
The funny thing is, like, that was the deck that I used to hit rank 5, and like I just flew up the ladder with it. And but it was teched for, I mean, I'm anxious to get out of the Dirty Rat meta. I think the Aviana nerf is going to be good
Hmm.
Yeah,
for Wild as a whole. I mean, I'm kind of sad because I like the combo, but at the same time, like, it's not very healthy for the game. So I'm
I'm
happy
not
to not have to run two dirty rats in every single deck anymore.
I'm not sad. I mean, it felt like, oh, I got Dirty Rat. Maybe I win. Oh, I didn't draw a Dirty Rat. It was fairly frustrating. And I mean, a lot of people are saying, myself included, that Big Priest is poised to make a comeback. But I'm already seeing some trends develop that I think are encouraging, like that Q Block deck you brought. I think we're going to start seeing that a lot more on ladder. I think it has a lot of potential to become a player in the meta. And that's certainly a deck that. While strong, never felt as oppressive as the Starliners and the Togwaggles to play against.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it doesn't have like the crazy OTK combo, and that's what feels bad. I mean, it feels bad when you lose in one turn out of nowhere, or when your opponent basically does nothing the entire game and then wins in one turn. Like that feels bad. At least with Q block, like you have to be proactive and you have to do things each turn, and as your opponent knows what's coming, and there are ways to counter it. So
So I have to ask you, Nate, you are far more experienced at piloting Q Block than I. I think I dubbed myself the worst Q Block player in NA.
it's
You
like
were
my favorite deck.
Yeah, I am going to be playing more of it. I am resigned to change that and shed the label. But I do have a question for you. You were quite aggressive in using your AOEs, and you still won the game. But I felt like that decision, well, cost you pretty heavily in the mid game when Dr. Evil was able to recover. Can you maybe talk through why you kind of played the Defile and the Hellfire as early as you did?
Yeah, I mean, I've been playing, like I'm sitting at rank 3 right now, and I went from rank 5 to rank 3 with Odd Paladin, and it's just so strong. And all you need is one turn to leave 3 or 4 dudes, like little 1/1 tokens, on the board, and they get buffed really easy by Fungal Mancer, by Quartermaster, or anything. And so you get punished for leaving them out. I mean, maybe I was a little bit too trigger happy with the AOE, but I mean, it worked out barely. Um,
Having the benefit of seeing Taylor's hand while you were playing that, I was watching you. Basically, you when you took out the first group of 4 recruits with the Defile. I was initially surprised, and then I remembered that we were going into Taylor's turn 4, and she had the coin, and I was looking up, and I was looking at like Quartermaster and Fungalmancer in hand. So you definitely the timing on that was certainly good. And then there's a second round of I think you the skull brought out the Doom Guard. You cleared a shield, and then you shadow flamed the whole board, and she was again, sitting on a board buff. So you definitely did a good job of denying her the opportunity to create a wall of giant guys until it was really too late.
yeah, I mean, you kind of have to. That's what turn 5 is, that pivotal turn where Quartermaster can come out, or what's the other one? That gives them all plus
Level
two,
up.
plus two, and taunt.
Level up.
Level up. Yeah, and it's like I didn't want that to happen because that's like game over for me.
So it sounds like you gained a
But
healthy
I mean,
respect.
I felt like that wasn't the optimal play to kill my own Doom Guard and blast the board. Like I would have rather used it in a different way, but I needed to clear it. So I don't know. I mean, I was happy with how that game turned out. I
Yeah.
I thought she still had a fighting chance if she cleared my Malgani, but
Yeah, but top decking them out, having the Mal'Ganis and then drawing Prince Tal'Daram, to put 2 of them up, was exactly the stopping point that you needed. Knowing with Gul'dan in hand, Blue Train, pointed out that you were going to have, with what she had on the board, even though she took out the big one, you were going to be able to kill the small one and then get a full size one off of Gul'dan, and that was. When you played that and then you had 55 power on the board, it was clear that it was game over.
It
yeah, that felt
it
good.
seems
I like that deck. It's a lot of fun. And back in the day, people weren't playing the Warlock weapon, but nobody's running weapon removal right now. Everyone's running Dirty Rat, and so I started running the weapon Squirrels deck. So credit to him. Um, but anyways, yeah, it's a lot of fun. I love that Recruit Hunter deck, but the opening hand was awful. And my opening hand was bad. I threw everything back except the Death Knight because I figure I mean it's good. Uh, and all the cards I got back 6, 7, 8, 9 mana. It's like, come on.
Yeah,
I mean, I kind of knew from like turn one I was pretty screwed, but
yeah. When looking at the cards you were holding, right, I saw Rexar in the opening hand. I was like, Rexar can win this game by himself. So I would have done the exact same thing. But yeah, when you picked up the top end of your deck off the mulligan, that had to hurt. Let's see. Um, okay. So Blue Train, are you back? Is your mic working now?
I believe it is. Sorry about
oh
that.
yeah, I hear you.
I unplugged my webcam, and I think that affected my audio. I was just gonna say, Nate, or I was trying to say that it sounds like by playing the Odd Paladin as much as you did, you gained a healthy respect for it, and that informed your decisions when playing the Q block deck, and that's interesting to hear that, and I think that's something that is underrated. If you hate a deck, playing it is oftentimes advisable, so you have an appreciation to how to beat it.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. That deck is scary. Well, and that's the deck that she just hit legend with. It's her own odd paladin mixed with like a mech package.
Okay,
It's
yep.
really strong. I mean, we saw that Anoyatron that got buffed with the magnetic thing, and it was like, what can I do against it? This is
Yeah,
a
that
6/8 with divine shield.
that was scary indeed.
Yeah.
So, but I want to say like, big shout out to Taylor who's gone now what 7-0 undefeated in this entire series. And she just hit dual legend in wild and standard.
Yeah, we
So it's
were noting
incredible.
that next season, if there is a next season, fingers crossed. I think we're gonna have to move Taylor into the pros bracket.
Yeah,
Just
Right?
definitely.
saying.
Seriously.
Which will make the numbers even, right? So no one will get biased.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, I don't know. Well, yeah, we'll see. I have to go apply for our tournament license when we get off, and make sure we don't. I don't know what's going on with that yet, so I'm afraid to read too much into it. But we'll see. Definitely some rumblings on Twitter all day long.
Right.
So what we're speaking about is the UHL Commissioner Mike Lowe, who's such a nice guy, got a call from Blizzard, and it was not a happy call. It was essentially a cease and desist for UHL.
Yeah,
Although,
maybe. Although
although
I think,
maybe
I mean, there's got to be more to it. I kind of feel like, Blizzard's been in such a kind of a weird place because everyone's unhappy about the tournament mode, and was asking for our opinions, and then didn't nerfed only 3 cards and people were wanting more, and then just the timing of MTG Arena came out and it's really good, and Eternal came out and it's really good, and they have a tournament mode, and they just gave away a free expansion, and it's like
so.
Blizzard, Hearthstone's in kind of a weird place,
I
and
work
we're
for
saying,
a big company, and the legal department does not have any interaction with community outreach, which probably
oh, I
does not
agree.
have any interaction with development. I mean, I'm not trying to excuse it, but this kind of thing doesn't surprise me. I bet that right now there's a big email thread circulating by the community outreach team saying, "You're killing us." I mean, I wouldn't say all hope is lost. I will say that I agree with you. This was not a good time to cannibalize any goodwill that they had going for them. I'm going to be uncharacteristically optimistic, and I think that it'll work out in the end. I mean, at the end of the day, we're not competing with HCT. Um, we're not monetizing this in any way whatsoever. So,
Yeah, I agree. I'm not too worried about it. I mean, we're just having fun, and I'm not. I think it'll be fine. I just think it was bad timing, and everyone was screaming like nerf Psychmel and nerf this, nerf that, and Blizzard's like, here, have a fifth Paladin hero skin. It's like, I mean, I bought it, but like, it's
I
not what
love.
we wanted.
I know, but it's the best paladin hero skin. So,
Oh, it's awesome. And I have to say, Taylor and I were chatting back and forth like the entire time. And I was telling her, emote as much as you can. I want to hear it. So, but yeah, big shout out to her. And yeah, I think if there is a season 2, she's gonna have to get bumped to the pros league.
double legend, and Taylor hits legend pretty much every month, I think, since Taylor's
I
been
don't
on my
know. I
friends
mean, it's
list,
been a
anyways.
it's been a while, but yeah, she's very good, very very good.
So
So if I had to lose to anybody, I'm glad it was her, and I hope that she beats Craig. Sorry, Craig. I would love to see her go on to like win this whole thing. That would be awesome.
Well,
well,
Taylor was saying that Craig is her number one enemy, so I'm sure she's going to be gunning for him.
I'll watch that one for sure.
All right. So I guess we can wrap it up if unless anybody's got anything else to say. If not, Nate, where can people find you on the interwebs?
Yeah, for sure. I've had to kind of take a step back from a lot of stuff just because I've been super busy with work. But you can find me on Twitter still. It's at Nate Wolf HS, NateWolfehs, and you can listen to the podcast Into the Wild. Generally, we record once a week, and you can find out all the information there at intothewildhs.com.
Awesome. And Blue Train, how about you?
I don't have much of a presence online outside of the Into the Wild League, but I'll do a double shout out for Nate. There's a stream happening on Friday at 7 p.m. Pacific time on Saucy Mailman stream, which everyone should subscribe to because he runs a great show. It's super entertaining, and he's a really good player. And Craig and Nate are going to be guests of honor, and I believe you have something to announce.
Oh yeah, that'll be fun. I love Saucy Million.
So is that still happening in light of all the recent going-ons?
Yep.
Excellent. So stay tuned for that stream Friday, 7 Pacific, 10 Eastern.
Well, now
I
I am intrigued, and I will definitely tune in.
as will I, because even though I'm promoting it, Craig wouldn't tell me what it was. His lips were sealed, so I'm gonna have to find out with the rest of everyone. I tried to use my Canadian in to like get him to spill the beans, but apparently he's afraid of you, Nate, so he couldn't reveal any secrets. So looking
Oh,
forward to
that's
that.
funny.
Well, Nate is a lawyer, right? So if you're going to be afraid of someone,
And
all right, yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to tune into Saucy's stream. I'm a recent subscriber there myself, having had a lot of fun, and watching him play Slay the Spire. Slay the Spire got added to my game rotation, so I blame him for that.
and
Yeah, he's awesome.
do you have a Twitter or anything, Itinerant Wizard, that you'd like to promote
Yeah,
or a
yeah, I
project?
do. So I'm at Itinerant Wizard on both Twitter and Twitch. Well, I guess not the at sign on Twitch, right? But twitch.tv/Itinerant Wizard. I have a stream that's gathering dust. I sort of had a lot of fun, 1 month, and then just work exploded, and then my wife came home from her year at school, and I just had no time to do it. So I may get back to it someday, but not currently.
Fair
Yeah,
enough.
but on Twitter, I talk about Hearthstone, Dungeons and Dragons, and probably a little too much politics.
Well, sounds like my kind of Twitter feed, so I'm gonna have to drop you a follow.
Wow, come on by. I'll do, and I'll return the favor.
Excellent. Well,
Awesome. Well, hey, thank you guys for casting. I really appreciate it.
oh, it is a pleasure and an honor. And so I'm just looking at the schedule right now, and it looks like we have a game scheduled for Friday the 19th at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 Eastern between Jonara and Get Meowth. That's their division final. The winner of that game will go on to face the winner of the Joe's division final, which will either be Dr. Evil or Craig of Canada. So that's going to be a great game. They're both fantastic players, and I'm really looking forward to checking that out. So that's this Friday.
Yep. Yeah. Tune in for sure. That'll be a great game.
Okay. Well, thank you, Itinerant Wizard, for putting up with me this evening, and Nate for
Yeah.
taking the L like a champ. Oh yeah, did you have something?
Let me just add one thing that I forgot. It took me a while, but over the past couple days, I was able to get all of our past VODs uploaded on YouTube. I was kind of behind, but they're current now. So if you want to watch any of the past games, it's youtube.com/Into the Wild HS, and all of our VODs are up there for the past Into the Wild League matches.
Awesome. It's nice that we've got that archived for posterity. So thanks for
Oh
doing
yeah,
that, Nate.
definitely.
And thanks
I think
for the
I'm gonna
whole
go back
league
and
as well.
watch. I'm gonna go back and watch all of Doctor Evil's victories.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely.
It's a commitment because there are many of them.
That's true. All right. Well, yeah, Nate, thanks for letting me cast. This was a lot of fun. You guys, you and Doctor Evil put up some fun games. It's been a great evening, and I look forward to seeing us crown a champion soon.
Yeah, me too. All right. Have a good night.
All right.
Well,
Good
have
night,
a good
guys.
night, everyone.
Good night.
Take care. Bye now.